Hey, so maybe you feel the same way, but I can't stand those selfie videos that people take while they're driving, like risking the lives of everyone else on the road around them. So I pulled over here because I'm so moved by this thought right now. There's a really important question that I want to ask you. How do you respond in situations that feel hopeless? A lot of us have our go-to vices in those moments, and I want to share some thoughts that I think could help us grow past those so that our families and our businesses and our own hearts can flourish. A true story from last week, silly little story, but it started me down this whole train of thought. I was walking into one of those big box retail stores on this wife-sent mission, and I was hit by this wave. It was this urge to do something totally out of character. And at first it didn't really make much sense to me. Why am I feeling this compulsion? Because you see, last year, my wife and I decided to sell 90% of our stuff. We got rid of the house, the second car. We put everything that we owned into this 40-foot RV and packed up our kids so that we could spend a couple years just traveling the country. It was a decision that was mixed with a lot of purpose and this conviction to embrace experiences over things. So now, present day, here I am in this big box store. My anti-consumerist self is walking through the front doors, and I'm met by two things that just hit me in the face. The first was the weight of the week that I just had. It was one of those can't see the forest through the trees kind of weeks. And there was this sort of stuck, hopeless feeling that was weighing on me. But then came the second thing right after it. It was this other feeling. I found myself feeling the urge to buy everything I saw. And some people might call this retail therapy. We get sucked into charging the cards for stuff that we don't need in order to feel better about our lives. But I caught it, and I had this moment of self-realization that my impulse to buy things that I didn't need was coming from a mindset of hopelessness and powerlessness. I was responding to that by wanting to do something to feel in control again. And I wonder how many times might we respond to hopelessness with a grab for power. We feel powerless, and so we scramble to feel like we're in control of something, anything. And in this case, I wanted to respond to the hopeless feelings by swiping my credit card. But how else might we do this? What other examples can we think of? Because I think it's pretty common. We grab for power when we feel out of control. Like a few years back, I was pastoring full time. I used to counsel some guys, and a few of them were newly married, and they would be totally shocked that their sexual addictions did not go away after they found a wife. They thought, now I can have the real thing, so I won't need that stuff anymore, and it will just go away on its own. But when we really drilled down into what was triggering that urge, 10 times out of 10, it didn't have anything to do with anything sexual. They were expressing feelings of hopelessness and feeling out of control. And the hopeless feelings when they were at their strongest is what sent them running to their vices to feel better. Their addiction was triggered by a need to feel in control again. Another example, what about workaholism? Listen, I've never met a workaholic who couldn't stop working because they loved it so much. Workaholism isn't a response to passion. Workaholism is a dysfunctional response to our feelings of powerlessness. We're chasing control because we desperately want to feel hope. And listen, this has been one of my biggest vices in my own life. But I found that workaholism, it's just like trying to spend myself out of debt. It doesn't work. It leaves me without inspiration. It depletes my relationships. And if I thought I was hopeless before, then just wait until I've buried myself in work for 100 hours a week for 3 months straight. Honestly, I've been there. And had very little to show for it later on because it wasn't sustainable. So here's the God's honest truth. I don't care how many positivity sessions you attend or how many world changer masterminds you've paid thousands to be in. The brutal truth is that you will not always be in control. You will feel hopeless at some point in your life. All this talk about mindset these days. Listen, strength of mind doesn't come through denial. If you want a rock-solid mindset, you don't ignore and suppress things. You learn how to face it head on. Because the question is not whether or not you'll face a dark day. The question is, How will you respond when you do face it? What will you do when you feel powerless? Now, I can't prescribe anything that just takes all this away. There's no silver bullet, there's no magic wand I can wave, but I can recommend a couple practical steps that will help you navigate this journey. These are the same 5 steps that I use, and the first step is to admit it. To who? Start with yourself. I admit to me that I feel powerless and hopeless. The second thing is that I try to identify the source. I look for the source of where my hopeless feelings are coming from. The third step is that I recognize my vices. What do I run to medicate the suffering? What do I turn to feel in control again? What do I begin to project or manipulate when my identity or position feels threatened? The fourth thing is that I tell someone. Find at least one person that you can go to that cares about you, yet won't feel threatened if you're feeling weak. One of the mistakes that I made early on in telling someone was that I went to people that did love me, but they also felt insecure when I wasn't providing them with strength. You need to go to someone whose sense of security is stable regardless of what you are going through. So this probably isn't someone in your immediate family. It probably is not someone in your workplace. This is going to be a trusted and objective person whose livelihood is in no way connected to your ability to produce. But bottom line, don't keep what you're going through bottled up inside. Tell someone. Now, fifth, and finally, make a plan. Remember what Mike Tyson said? Everyone has a plan till they get hit, right? Well, maybe our plans fall apart because we don't actually plan to get hit. Sure, plan to win, but also plan to take some shots along the way. How will you respond when you get rattled? So ask yourself, how can I fend off feelings of hopelessness without resorting to my vices? Listen, I think that this can make a huge difference for you. Start here, but also recognize everything I've talked about today is about having a good defense in place so that you don't get caught off guard, so you don't get obliterated, so you don't respond by constantly resorting to your vices or these grabs for control. But beyond defense, consider a development plan for your life that goes beyond temporary relief. George Washington said it back in 1799. I think it's still true. He said offensive operations are the surest means of defense. So I end with this question. How will you go on offense this year? How will you develop and move forward? Go write down your thoughts somewhere. Hang it up on your wall, because this is the year of taking new territory in your life and in your business. God bless you.